Today, I am interviewing Peggy Brown and Maisha. They are with Hit the Road in Mississippi. And ladies, I met you ladies at Arts Day with the Mississippi Arts Commission.
Right.
And I thought what you were doing was really cool. So I wanted to have you on. So let's get started right away and just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what your podcast and YouTube channel is all about.
All right. Well, we met because Miss Hit the Road herself here has been in the blues industry and promoting artists and just doing everything you can imagine, helping people hitting the road in Mississippi for a good while now. And I love telling people stories, and I love music. And so that's kind of how we got together.
Mm-hmm.
But we also love all the arts, and we understand that it's not just the people, it's not just musicians hitting the road in Mississippi, but all the artists are all over Mississippi and are taking their arts all around Mississippi, but it's also the world is coming to Mississippi, so they're hitting the road. So when you put all that together and you think about all the stories involved, well, before you knew it, we decided we just wanted to tell those stories. And so I have a podcast history, if you will, and she has everything else. And so I'm that little bit, and she's everything else.
That's not right.
Well, okay. So how long have you two been together doing this?
We've not known each other quite a year yet, but it didn't take long to know each other when we knew that we had very similar interests, and one being telling people stories. And I've always been enamored with the musicians that I worked with and had the opportunity to book and a couple to manage, and the incredible stories that they have regarding where they've finally gotten in their career or where they haven't quite gotten in their career, but the stories that that involve them as to why they chose that, why they wanted to play music. And so even one time when I had a band booked in Davenport, Iowa, part of the festival was a workshop time when the musicians all lined up across the stage, and the people that were there got to ask them questions like, why did you start playing? Why did you want to play this music? And those stories were just incredible, and the audience loved them. And I've thought, that's as much as appreciating their music and their talent is to know why they got in it, what made them want to do that. So Maisha and I talked some. We met at Blue Monday at Hal and Mal's, which is the thing that our Blues Society puts on every Monday night at Hal and Mal's in Jackson. And we've been doing that for 17 years. But Maisha came and we met there. And so that's how we struck up this partnership of wanting to tell people stories, even as she said, not just musicians, but other people in the arts as well.
Okay. And so Maisha, what do you do when you're not doing this? What's your profession or?
Well, my background is actually healthcare. I was a long-term care consultant, and because of my own health issues, I ended up helping people online with chronic pain and invisible illness for years. And so I help people with energy medicine and with meditations. And I'm also an author. I've been in an award-winning series of books, Find Your Voice, Save Your Life. And so before there was a Facebook, I've been online helping people and putting shows together, getting people who have stories to tell out there so that they could get to a broader audience and reach more people and help more people. And as I started doing that, I started realizing that the chronic pain and invisible illness world kind of kept themselves secluded. And I was kind of the opposite. I founded something called Fibro Life, which was about people with fibromyalgia living, not being secluded. And so I started then something called Every Life is a Story, wanting the chronic pain and visible illness world to see that everyone had issues, not just those of us with chronic pain and visible illness. So I've just over the years evolved what I'm doing to not just the chronic pain and visible illness world, but to everyone, just telling everyone's story, because I really felt that everyone speaking up and sharing where they were coming from and what their passions were was inspiring to everyone else. And so my own health and wellness journey and my own background, in music, everything just kind of coalesced into me just being just an online person telling stories and helping people connect. So I'm kind of a people connector online is kind of what I've become.
Nice, nice. Well, I will tell you that now, I don't want to get off topic and get onto my show or whatever, but very similar to what you're doing is what I'm doing. I love all the arts, and I have my foot in a bunch of different genres, and so it naturally was a fit for me. But what's so interesting is that even people, when they're not necessarily interested in even a particular form of art, they'll be interested in the people that are making it.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't dislike sports. It just doesn't interest me that much. Just as a rule, following sports teams and following different, I just don't care. But I found fascinating. I don't remember who put it on. It may have been ESPN. They did something like 30 for 30 or 40 for 40 or something like that. At any rate, it was biographical stories about athletes that some of them were tragic, some of them were very uplifting, but that to me was very interesting, and so that kind of inspired me about even doing my program. And it sounds like that's the same thing for you, is that it's not just the artwork, but it's the people behind it that's equally, if not more, fascinating.
Exactly.
Right. It was ironic to me that the series of books I was in, it was really about people in healthcare. It was not traditional healthcare, but who were finding their voice, and because of finding their voice, that is what saved them and then helped them help other people. But what I find in the arts is that arts come from the fact that we feel suppressed or oppressed. And so we express ourselves through the arts, which I've done my whole life myself as a musician, and entertainer and performer. So it's all the same thing. We're all needing to express ourselves, whether we're a chef, whether we own a factory, no matter what we do what we do because we need to express who we are. And so many of us feel oppressed and like we can't. So everybody's story matters. And Peggy and I both believe there's no ordinary story. Everybody is extraordinary. It's just getting them to see they're extraordinary. So a kind of a challenge I have is when I sit by somebody on a plane, they'll say, "What do you do?" And I'll say, "Well, I tell people stories." And they're like, "Oh, well, I don't have a story to tell." And I'd always take that as a challenge. I'm like, just start talking. And before they never get through a minute before I'm like, there's a story. And before they get off the plane, they're like, "Well, I could be on your show for a month." And I'm like, "Yes, you could." So that's what I enjoy is showing people that they're extraordinary. We're all extraordinary.
Okay, well, now just a little bit of just from a technical standpoint. Okay, you decide you want to do this, but you got to get the equipment, you got to get, just the logistics. How did you work all that out?
Simplistically, I'll leave that up to Meisha. She's the producer of the series.
Well, actually, my guru's son has Dr. Thomas helped me. I have a really nice computer that he built and all of that kind of stuff. And Peggy and I tried a whole menagerie of things. And the truth of the matter is we use my phone most of the time. Right now we're on my nice camera and my nice computer, but most of the time, and when I'm at home doing shows, this is what I do. Whenever I'm doing my meditations or that kind of thing, this is my setup. But whenever we are doing the podcast, most of the time it's my phone. We keep it really basic. And we find that most people are more comfortable with that the more complex it is, the more people are like, I don't know about this, but you just set your phone up and go to talking, and it works. And over the years, like I said, I've done this now. Before there was a Facebook, I've been interviewing people, talking to people. I was online doing blogging before blogging was a word. And so I keep it simple. I don't make it complex. And everyone who says it has to be complex, I just I say, oh, okay, but I don't do it complex.
And we've actually gone to several people, where they were, or gone to a common place, not just where we usually do our little studio stuff, which happens to be my apartment.
Usually, yes.
So we've actually gone out of my apartment, which is how we intend to do it when we start going more on the road, hitting the road in Mississippi. We're definitely going to have to go to where the people are. So I think that will make people feel more comfortable if we're coming to them.
Yeah.
So that's part of our process that we're going to kick in pretty soon.
And I get messages from people, like we've gone to a jazz festival and things of that nature, or we go and listen to artists, and I do video, and I get messages from them. So what equipment are you using? And I'm like, my phone. And they're like, no. And I'm like, yes. And so I do video for a lot of people, and get requests. Will you come record us again? So
Nice.
yeah, so I don't. And there are a lot of people out there that if you listen, they will say that this is a fallacy, that you have to get this and make it complex. They'll say, you don't have to make this expensive and difficult to do. And I'm a supporter of that notion. I'm very much in that camp, that this does not have to be expensive and complex. As a matter of fact, I've watched, when Peggy and I first started talking about doing this, we got some shows to watch that have been professionally done, and we watched them, and Peggy's like, so can we do that quality? And I said, I can do that quality right now with what I own. and matter of fact, I can do better than that quality with what I own, because it's not as complex as people think. It's a matter of just being brave enough to just sit down and do it. But for those who want to do it more high tech, I don't discourage them from doing that either, because it's got to be what you're comfortable with and what makes you feel good, because that's what we all have to do. We all have to do things at our level of consciousness. Whatever feels good to us, that's what we have to do. And if owning the really high-tech stuff is what makes you feel good about what you're doing, then by all means, go out and buy it and use it. And you're going to sound super fantastic doing it, and it's going to be great. But if you want to use your phone, that works too.
Well, in all the interviews you've done, have you had any that were a disaster, either from just the person themselves or a technical standpoint? I know when I first started, I accidentally forgot to hit record, and I did.
No.
Yes, it was on Zoom, and I didn't realize until later that you can do passive record on Zoom, so that now it's not doing it on my phone, but if I do it through my computer, I've got it where it just automatically turns on.
Right.
That way it's just one less thing I have to think about. But have you had some glitches or things like that that have just either ruined or really messed up an interview?
No, it didn't really mess up the interview. We were recording in one of the rooms at Hal & Mal's, and the interview was going great, but we kept having people in our background that were easily in the camera coming through the door, and the door would slam, bam. And then one guy stood there, and he just kind of looked like, what are y'all doing? And so he was in the background of the video, but it didn't mess it up. It just kind of added to the fun of it. He didn't know he was going to be on a podcast, and there he was on the YouTube video. So we haven't had, knock on wood, any traumatic experiences yet.
It actually just made it more real.
It made it more real.
I think and I like what you're saying about Zoom and how it automatically comes on. I don't do that because I always ask people, because even though people know you're recording, I always ask, but you're right about that. But I think the most traumatic thing that Peggy and I experience is when we're tired. So it's not, it's not
We
what
look
other
really
people,
bad.
because we do both video and audio. We have a YouTube channel and we do the audio. So it's not the interviews, it's when we look at the interviews and we're like, oh, we don't look
we don't look
good.
good.
This part is our self critique,
Yes.
but so far no. But over the years I have had things go wrong. I have had I've had internet go down. I've had things like that happen. And those are just things that you can't help. And everyone is always understanding about that. I've never had I've had people around the world be scheduled for something and their internet go down, my internet go down, whatever. People are always great about that. They reschedule with you. I've interviewed people in Africa, I've interviewed all over, and they're great about it. They're like, it happens to me all the time, or it'll happen on their end, and I'm understanding of it. People know that tech messes up, and people know that you have bad days, and so I've never had anyone give me any flack over anything. And people also know I have health problems, and so if I'm foggy or whatever, people are great with that too. So I've never had any issues that were not insurmountable.
Right. You talk about that you do some traveling, and then you do probably, I guess, more in your studio. Do you like the traveling, or is it something you do because you have to, or would you prefer to travel?
I'm speaking for both of us, but we like it.
Yeah.
We like to travel. I mean, we like to have people come to the place where we do that, but it's fun to go and see. And the part of that is to go and see who we might be interviewing, doing their craft. And so far, that has been musicians, and what's not fun about that? About going to watch them play. So yeah, we don't have an issue with traveling, and we want to be doing what we're talking about. We want to be hitting the road in Mississippi, so we're not opposed to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What has been your biggest challenge or challenges in producing this podcast and YouTube channel?
I would say just there's just the two of us, so there's there's a lot of work, and there's also it's not cheap. I mean, hitting the road is not inexpensive. So like you, we very much like Mac.
Mississippi Arts Commission.
Mississippi Arts Commission. And so we're looking at grants and the grant process. We're learning about that. And so that's a challenge, I think. Is funding is a challenge. And just getting started in that, because it's a new world for me, because my background is health and wellness, and what I've done is been very different. And then for Peggy, while it's not a new world, the world of it's not new to her, the podcasting world is new. So I think just navigating the waters of doing something that you need money for, that you're not used to. Neither one of us are used to raising money to do something.
Exactly.
We're not people who like to raise money. We're
No.
people who like that. We're not comfortable raising money to do something. So I guess that's the biggest
I
challenge.
think that's going to be our biggest
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah. Raising money is like, what? You want to do the stuff.
We just want to
And
do
there are certain people, certain professions which attract a certain personality, and those personalities aren't comfortable raising money, going out with their
Exactly.
hat in their hand.
exactly.
Artists tend to be that way, and missionaries. I have lots of friends who are missionaries, and they say the part they hate the most, they love going to Africa, they love going to China, they love all that stuff, even though their lives may literally be in danger. That
Right.
doesn't scare them. Coming
Right.
back home and going to churches with a hat in hand and saying, please give me money, it just puts knots in their stomach.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
That same
Absolutely.
concept. I think that entails appreciating your value and what you're doing, but still it's just difficult. I think it comes from two different parts of the brain. Oh, I've got to raise money. Oh, but I want to be creative. So those don't
Yeah.
often go together, just like you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had some, maybe traveling or whatever, have you had some adventures, something that it was just really kind of wild and crazy that you wouldn't have expected?
Um,
Wow, I don't know.
no, there are many adventures that I've had hitting the road with artists, musicians before we started doing this together. So Mesha kind of interviewed me at the start of this podcast about how I got into the business and
Yes.
some of the adventures I've had, and some I just can't even tell you about. I mean, being on tour with a young blues band, and it's just some of those stories I don't want to remember. So far in this endeavor, we've not had any wild and crazy, but when she interviewed me, I laughingly remembered a bunch of stories from back then.
But we've had some really fun stuff already, even though we haven't really gotten to go far yet.
Yeah.
We've had some really fun stuff because we've spent time with like King Edward doing things that are not normal for him to do,
Mhm.
getting to be like in the tux and on stage getting a governor's award. And so we've seen some things that are unusual and gotten to experience some things that you don't normally expect. And then gotten to see like King Edward and Dorothy Moore at the same place at the same time, and Dorothy Moore in her ruby slippers, and the two of them sitting together, and then Eddie Cotton Jr. coming in and being right there with them, and Eddie Cotton pushing King Edward up on the stage in his wheelchair. So I mean, we've already seen some just amazing moments. It's like, oh wow, we
Right.
witnessed that
Right.
and covered them, and so we've already seen some amazing things, which covering them from this perspective, I mean, we were seeing them before,
Right.
but now that we're seeing them and we're thinking about them from, oh, we want to tell people about them, it makes them seem even bigger. And so, yeah.
Exactly. Very well said.
Right.
Exactly. And Mesha was talking about King Edward. I have managed him for years, and he just recently received the governor's awards in the arts for music. And so we were privileged to go with them down to the ceremony, but also to go with them to the governor's mansion afterwards to actually receive his award, and to be on the Senate floor for him to receive a Senate proclamation from the state of Mississippi Senate for what he's done in Mississippi music. And those are just treasured moments, treasured memories. And to know that we were there and documented those, Mesha filmed and we took pictures, and so and then for me to get to go to his house and interview him about his experience, all of those are kind of, I think, priceless moments, and that's what we want to be about, is recalling, recording the priceless moments.
Well, and I think too, like the things that you discover along the way, like I'm kind of a rule follower, but not. And so like Peggy's on the Senate floor and I'm up in the balcony. And the minute that we were going to go on the balcony, of course, the MAC people were with me to take me onto the balcony. And they're like, you're going to get some great shots from here. And the guard tells me, the first thing he tells me is no camera, no anything from up there. And I'm like, oh, okay. So immediately they're like, oh, wow, you're a podcaster and they're not going to let you do anything from up there. But everybody around me is doing it. Everybody on the Senate floor is doing it. The Congress, the senators, the representatives, they're doing it. And I'm like, so here I am following the rules, don't have my camera out. And here's Peggy down. Of course, Peggy didn't go through where I did. She went through down below. So Peggy's down there doing it too. And I'm like, and there's Peggy breaking the rules too. And then
they didn't tell me not to take it.
And then I also find out, because I'm sitting next to the MAC people that are with me, that oh, and there's our videographer. We've got somebody down there that's capturing it all. And so Peggy was not up with King Edward at the being presented, which she needed to be, because Peggy was doing what she does. She was capturing the moment. And I'm like, So I really wanted to stand up and say, no, go stand with King Edward. They've got someone, but I couldn't. So, I wanted to do this. And finally, I'm just like, oh, just forget this and forget the rules. And so I started taking pictures and everything. So it's like, and then the Mac people with me started laughing. I didn't take a lot, but I took a few. But so it's just stuff like that. It's just things that you don't think about until you're doing those kind of things. And then you're like, oh my God, there are rules about this. Nobody's following the rules. The senators themselves aren't following the rules. And so you don't know what to do in those moments. And then you realize that you just go with the flow. And so, and then the computer that they sent all of that videography to crashed. They still don't have that back. So that's why we don't have all of that. That's what she was telling us the other day. So they're trying to reconstruct all that. They're trying to get that computer fixed. So it's a good thing Peggy did what she did. It's a good thing I didn't stand up and say, no, they got a videographer.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So,
Exactly.
right. So, I mean, it's just stuff like that. I mean, no longer than we've done this because we haven't done it long. No more than we've done. I mean, that was really an experience. And going into the elevator and not being able to make the elevator work. I mean, just things like that. Just we've had a lot of fun already.
And then actually, running into you at the reception,
Yes.
and we were able to meet you, and that was just serendipitous. Like,
Yeah.
you were one of the first ones there. We were some of the first ones there.
Right.
We would not have met you if we hadn't gone to that. So it's just, it's that cool thing of being in the right place at the right time,
Right.
and getting to meet people and experience the experience. So
Sure.
that's part of the delight of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'll tell people a lot of times is that in most of the things that you do, it's just being there. That
Yes.
It is.
I've said this over and over again. It's like in dating. There's Mr. Right and there's Mr. Right now, and
That's true.
so just being in the room can get you places that you would never have imagined you could possibly go. And if you had thought too much about it, like, well, how do I do this and how do I make it work and how do I meet so and so, just be there and you'll find that very often circumstances will just put you together, and then one thing leads to another. So you said something about you've interviewed people in Africa and so forth, but the name of your show is Hitting the Road in Mississippi. So were they from Mississippi or had Mississippi connection, or do you still reach out to other places?
Well, the Africa stuff, that was stuff I did for Every Life is a Story. I have a friend that owns a safari in Africa, not a safari where you kill animals, but where you take pictures of animals. And so that stuff I did before, which is why Peggy and I got together, is because I've done this in other ways. So that's kind of how we came together, is because Every Life is a Story. So,
but part of this project too, Bill, is we want to see people that have come to
yes.
Mississippi and ask them, why did you come to Mississippi? What made you? And I've met a lot of people at Blue Monday
Yes.
that just have come to Mississippi to experience the music, and they want to come to where it started. And so we want to get their stories as well. What made you come to Mississippi? What do you like about it? What did you experience coming to the birthplace of the blues? And did you, and a lot of them put their own tours together, which I just think is, wow, that's almost overwhelming. You just sit down and put your own tour together and you go from town to town in Mississippi, or you come in from Memphis or from New Orleans. And so that's part of what we want to do as well, is to get to interview folks and go, what do you like about Mississippi? Why did you come? What's your experience? So we hope to do that. We tried to do a little bit of that at the event Blue Monday, and the noise was just too much behind who we were interviewing. So we've got to figure out that, but that's part of our mission.
Yeah, when you ask about the tech thing, that's what I was going to say. That was one of the tech things we've had issues with, is if we ask them to go to a quieter spot, they're going to lose their table. You know, and plus they're not going to be experiencing Blue Monday, which is what they're there for. But but Blue Monday is a place where people from out of the country show up. We talked to the guy that retrofitted his vehicle, but we weren't doing the podcast yet when we talked to him. We were just kicking around the idea, and so so that was really interesting. So we've talked to some really interesting people. But and Peggy mentioned the people that are doing their own tours. One of the things that that really hits me is how people are always saying they start in Memphis and they're headed to New Orleans and they're doing like a shot through Mississippi. Well, Mississippi is not a shot. Mississippi is for sipping. We have trails, they're for meandering. We want to slow people down. But Mississippi is the birthplace of America's music. So you wouldn't be going from Mississippi to New Orleans, from Memphis to New Orleans, if it wasn't for the birthplace of America's music. So we want to slow people down and get them to meander through Mississippi. And really, I don't think it's accurate that so many people are really doing that anymore anyway. I don't think people are rushing through Mississippi that much, because so many people are coming to Mississippi for Mississippi. So I think we need to be seeing that and talking to those people that are here for Mississippi. I think it used to be that way, maybe, but I think it's a misconception that people aren't slowing down and seeing Mississippi. I think we need to realize that they are, and we need to be giving them more. We need to be giving them more attention to help facilitate that. So that's another one of the things we want to focus on, is showing just how many people are hitting the road here and making sure that they have something to do, arts, and they know. It's not that there's not stuff to do, but making sure that they know what those things are, and that it's not so hard for them to figure out, that they don't have to put their own tours together, that they don't have to figure it out themselves. We want to see that happen. We want to see it. We want to see podcasts. We want to see whatever it takes for them to easily find what to do while they're here hitting the road in Mississippi, and for it not to be where they're trying to figure out the path to meander through and what all there is to do, which we know the state is working on. We want to enhance that process. We want to work with that process.
Right.
Nice. Do you have like a 5-year goal, or are you just sort of winging it, playing it by ear? What's your trajectory, or are you even thinking in those terms, or are you just having fun?
That's a good question. I would like to answer it going, yeah, we have a 5-year goal. We don't have one yet, but we're working on it. And so far, this has been, let's just get this going and see what changes we need to make and how we want to spread it out, and then come up with the goals. So I don't know, maybe we've come in the back door on it, but Maisha is absolutely the organizational guru. So I have to say, we don't have that goal yet, Bill, but it's coming.
Well, Peggy gives me too much credit. Peggy is the executive director of the Mississippi Musicians Hall of Fame.
And we own that slogan, Mississippi, birthplace of America's music.
And Peggy has had Hit the Road Entertainment all of these years. Peggy has been a co-founder of the Central Mississippi Blues Society. Peggy has helped make sure that Blue Monday has happened for 17 years now. So Peggy is an integral part of so much that has gone on with the arts in this part of Mississippi, and is well known. Recently, she wasn't able to attend something because of a family matter that I did attend. And every time that I said, I'm with Peggy Brown, they're like, oh, okay. And so that was a big, got my foot in the door kind of thing. But we are looking at an overall plan for what we're going to do, based upon the fact that we are one Mississippi. We definitely embrace that. We want to bring the whole state together. We want to unify the types of blues. We don't want the types of genres of music. We want to show that, yes, all the music came from one place, that all arts come from the expression of who we are. We have lots of small goals, I suppose, that all come from the same place. But yeah, we are looking at, I would say we're looking at it from the standpoint of bringing mixed medium together, all the arts together in one comprehensive way of showcasing it, and using the podcast as a way to help promote that. So I guess we're going to take everything that Peggy does and the fact that this is the birthplace of America's music and the podcast and everything that I do and the storytelling, and put it all together. And we're going to hit the road with that. And then I'm going to use my own talents and hit the road with that too, intermingled with it. And so we do have a plan. It's coming together. It's just
It's coming together.
It's coming together, and it's really just going to involve putting all of the arts together and recognizing that it's all the same thing. It's all about expressing who you are and showing that really Mississippi really is one Mississippi, and that we want to help promote that notion and help be sure that all of Mississippi is being showcased worldwide, and that the world coming to Mississippi feels welcome, and that Mississippi knows the world is coming here. We want Mississippi to realize the world is coming to you. We want Mississippi to know that.
Right. Is there anything else that you guys are wanting to share about your program? Oh, I know one thing I was wondering, how many shows numerically have y'all done? Do you know?
I think there's 19 now that we've got. I think 19.
It's somewhere around 19, and like 3 of them we've not published yet. We're not put out there. Is that right?
Yeah,
So
something like that.
somewhere around 19.
Okay. And how often do you post? And or well, first, how often do you post?
Well, there are some interviews that have been long, and so we've had to divvy those up into like 2 sessions. So
Right.
Measure's goal has been that we would publish those 2 about that one person in the same week, so that
Okay.
possibly people could binge watch, binge listen to that person. But we've been doing it like, our goal was to do it every week, but we've not quite done it every week. Pretty close.
Yeah, we've kind of just been reading the analytics and going by that. We found that when we were trying to do it, well, first we were trying for twice a week, and that seemed to be too much for the audience. And so we backed off. And I'm kind of just reading the analytics now. And it seems to be when people seem to be ready for more, we're giving them more. So we're not really doing it on a set schedule. We're kind of doing it based on, because people have vacations, people have times when they're busier, there's holidays, that kind of thing. So, and that's kind of what I've always done with my own stuff in the past, is when people were busier, I didn't put stuff out. When people were available to watch it, that's when I hit them with it. So that's kind of what I'm finding is working with this too, is we're putting it out there when there's people available to watch it. And when people are busy, we're not bothering them with it. Therefore, our content's not going out at a time that it's not going to be seen or watched or listened
Okay.
to.
Yeah. And that's where I try to do once a week, but sometimes depending on, what you're doing, because this is not my full-time job. I'm an illustrator.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
sometimes it might be a month or more before I can get another one out.
Sure.
Have you're talking about your analytics. Have your analytics surprised you at all? I know I've had several shows that I thought, this is going to be really good. People are really going to like it. I did just get a few viewers. And then another one I did, and it's like, I like it. I'm glad I did it. And it had just thousands of people watch. And it's like, I can't read the audience. I have no idea, because I wouldn't have thought that would have been, one of my biggest viewed shows. So, have y'all experienced that?
We're ready for the thousands.
Absolutely ready for that.
Not that I've experienced that before, but we haven't experienced it with this yet. But we're doing it all organically, and so we've not and we are new, so we haven't done a lot of, well, we haven't done any real marketing. We've just let it go organically with what what Peggy's already doing has been our marketing, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, we've been a little surprised about we have somebody in Belgium that is like a #1 fan. But I mean, it's like the podcast goes out, Belgium's all over it. And I don't know who that is. I think Peggy knows, but we have somebody in Belgium that's all over it the second it goes out. So
Isn't
yeah.
that cool? I've looked at my analytics where it's like, of course, most of my viewers are in the United States, but all of a sudden somebody in, I'll just make it up. I mean, it's like Dubai or Belgium or something. It's like, oh my gosh, you've watched that many of my programs?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Our analytics are showing that the people that started with us in the very beginning, they have stayed with us. We haven't lost any of them. It's the same consistent people. And they're like, it's almost instantaneously. The podcast goes out, I'll go back and look, and boom, they're all over it. So they are very loyal to us. They are there. They're instantaneous almost. It's like they're just waiting for us. So I don't know who they are for sure, but they are hungry for it. So we do have to grow. So we're ready for bigger audiences. We're ready to start advertising and to do more of this so people will know about us. We're definitely ready for that, and definitely ready to get out and to get more podcasts out there. I think taking the time to look at the big picture and have a big picture plan, which we have been working on this past couple weeks, and have a few people we're meeting with in the next couple weeks and to solidify. I think that's going to help. But so yeah, we're ready to have the bigger numbers, certainly. But the analytics have been interesting, how the people have been loyal to us. The ones we have are just they're all over it really quickly.
Nice. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we go?
Well, thank you so much for even being interested in us, Bill. We really appreciate that. And just that we truly hope that this gets to be something that people tune in on, whether it's the YouTube channel or listening. And because we're absolutely determined to get people's stories out. So that's the whole purpose. And like I said, I just think once you experience or get to listen to somebody's story as to why they got started in their craft, it makes you appreciate their craft even more, like you said about the athletes. And so that I really hope that people appreciate that goal that I have in it, and I think Maisha has in that too. So, thank you for being interested in us.
Oh, you're quite well. And let me repeat, the name of your podcast and YouTube is Hitting the Road in Mississippi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for being on The Arthropologist. I have thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, well, we've enjoyed it too. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome. If you've enjoyed this episode, think about subscribing. You can also check out my podcast at thearthropologist.podbean.com.